right. Hello, Hellraisers. We are here today with Shannen Stewart with Heels and Handshakes. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we have been connecting online on Instagram. A lot of we have similar friends in common who've been recommending. I reach out to Shannen and hear all about Heels and Handshakes. And I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot going on with Shannen and Heels and Handshakes. And today we're going to learn all about that. So Shannen, if we can just start it off, just tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and how you got to become president and founder of Heels and Handshakes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say if anyone's into the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3, so I'm an achiever. I was in the hospitality space for over a decade, and I worked in corporate America before I became a full-time entrepreneur with Heels and Handshakes. And when I worked in the corporate space, I was director of strategic partnerships, and essentially networking became a part of my job description. I had a goal of meeting 25 clients a week. So I was always meeting and cultivating relationships. And I feel like that really transpired into creating Heels and Handshakes, which, I started it in 2013. So I was one of the OGs of creating Nashville women networking here. And, I know I'm not always my job, like that's not my identity.
Sure.
So I'm more than just Heels and Handshakes, but I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I love true crime.
Do you listen to those on podcasts too?
Oh, yes.
What are your favorites? Because I know we need some new ones.
I mean, I've got a list in my notes, and so I don't know if we can follow that up in the link note, but I literally have a note that I will share with people, and I'm like, you need to listen to all of these. Back in the day when I was working for a corporation, Atlanta was one of my markets, and I listened to the Serial podcast. I don't know if you've listened to that. It was so good. I would drive to Atlanta, so it's 4 hours. I remember being like, I don't want to get out of my car because it was just like cliffhanger after cliffhanger. Sure. But love true crime. I love Bravo and anything business.
Good. Yeah, true crime is one of those things where Going West podcast is the one I listen to. Have you listened to that one?
I haven't listened to that one yet.
Oh, girl. So good. And they have a new one every Tuesday and I think Friday. And it's so funny because I'll get in my car on Monday mornings after I drop my daughter off, and it's already telling me like, okay, you have a new episode of this one. Come on, you generally listen to podcasts at this time in your car, and I like fiend for the new episodes that come out.
I love it.
And so I've been trying to find new ones.
Well, my husband's always like, should I be scared? Because I'll listen to like My Favorite Murder and like, all of these. So I'll send you a list of all the good ones.
Those guys are good. My Favorite Murder was good. I just ended up having to like fast forward through like the first 45 minutes of their.
I like to get to the meat of the, like want to listen to the
murders. I only have 35
murders.
minutes in the car. I want to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, it's nice. I always wonder, like, why do I like that stuff? And I think because if I'm in the car and I'm thinking about my life or my job, I get a little bit, anxious, worried about all the things that I've got to get done in a day. So if I'm listening to someone else's story, I don't have to think about my own.
I feel that. I feel you.
I feel like that's why I like them. But and Heels and Handshakes, so 2013, so it's almost 10 years.
Yeah, so this is our 10-year anniversary, which is huge, and I'm just really grateful for the community that we've built, and we're going to do a huge celebration for our holiday party because it's 10 years. That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And how many members, so when you started it, how many members did you have? How much have you grown since then? What does that process look like?
So it's been a journey, and I'll kind of tell you a little bit of like the founder story because I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. Like I was perfectly content and happy with working for a corporation, have that 401k, the safe paycheck every Friday. So I started Heels and Handshakes in 2013, and the long story short of that is, like, one of my favorite quotes is sometimes you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. And in 2009, I had a breakdown, like a physical and a mental breakdown. So I was living in Nashville. I'm originally from Nashville, moved to Orlando, Florida in 2009 with my husband, who was my fiance at the time. And so, new city, new state, I don't know anybody. And I have the physical breakdown. I was in my little Honda Civic at the time and broke down on the side of the road. So that was the physical breakdown. And the mental breakdown was, my husband was getting his master's. So he was in class. He could not come get me. And it was this moment of like, looking through my phone, being like, I have no one to call. I have no contacts. And yes, I can call AAA, but I want to call Tiffany. I want to have like a face and a name. And so I told myself in that moment, like, I'm never going to be put in that situation where I don't have a contact. I don't have a resource, a community, a friend. I didn't even know my neighbors, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really my aha moment of like, okay, I need to have community. So fast forward, living in Orlando, Florida, really immersed myself in the hospitality industry. You know, Disney's in my backyard.
Sure.
And that's where I found my people, Whitney. Like, just being in events, it takes a certain type of crazy.
Don't we know all about that?
But being in events, we're really servant leaders, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you're providing event, catering, and I started calling them frienders. So like vendors, right? Like photographer, florist, they became my friends. So they were my frienders.
Yeah.
And so I found something really powerful about having that community of women in the hospitality space. Fast forward, my husband and I moved back to Nashville in 2012. And even though I'm from here and I have like my girlfriends, we were just in different seasons of our life.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends that were moms early on. I didn't become a mom until 2017.
Yeah.
And so I realized the importance of having that community of people that were in your same field or sector that kind of understood what you were going through.
Sure.
So I created a community in December 2013. And then, you know, we were talking about this, build it and they will come. I mean, I built Heels and Handshakes. There's no like overnight success story.
Sure.
I built this for 7 years before it became a membership.
Wow.
And so in 2020, when we launched the membership, in the first 80 days, we had 120 women sign up for membership. So that showed me that I was onto something, and people wanted more, and they wanted this community and the resources. But then also with 2020 and the pandemic, I learned really quickly the importance of diversifying our member portfolio. So we were always known as women in hospitality, but with the pandemic, you know, that impacted so many people. But there was a stat that was out there that showed 40% of unemployment because of COVID was made up of the tourism and hospitality space. People weren't traveling, you know, hotels, everyone was getting furloughed. So we decided to diversify our membership portfolio, and now our members run the gamut. So we've got women in banking, we've got med spa owners, lawyers. I mean, anybody that you're looking for, they're probably a member.
Wow. And so those first 7 years, I mean, we do a lot of reading on, you know, entrepreneurship. It is not for everybody.
No.
I think a recent statistic I read was like, you know, 92% of people who start their own business give up within the first 3 years because it's hard and it's lonely and it's exhausting.
But it
and
shouldn't
it's
be
expensive.
lonely, Whitney.
It shouldn't, right? If you're building that community. So,
Absolutely.
So tell us about those first 7 years. So when you didn't have, you know, a true membership where you could see like these 80 to 100 women are dedicated and committed to this just as I am. What did the little milestones and the little like awards or rewards happen over those 7 years? What made you keep waking up every day and continuing to build this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, you know, as an Enneagram 3, my wings too. So I love helping people. And I always make the joke that like I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
But the things that helped me keep going and showed that there was light at the end of the tunnel, like, hey, I think I'm onto something, was when I would get the emails, the texts, the DMs, all the messages from members that were like, Shannen, thank you so much because of this community. Or like, I went to this meeting because we host in-person monthly meetings. I would get these messages like, Shannen, thank you so much. I just met, you know, this person and we're doing business together. We're doing collaboration. Or Shannen, thank you so much because of Heels and Handshakes. I found my job.
Wow.
You know, we had a lot of people even back then moving to Nashville, and they were like, I was able to find my job through Heels and Handshakes. We recently, might have been 2021, there was a woman that moved here, and I'll give her a shout out, Kristen. She joined because she was in the hospitality space, even though we're beyond hospitality, all sectors. And she's like, Shannen, I met one of my best friends, Carly. She's a bridesmaid now in Carly's wedding.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, you may join because you want business, you know, referrals or resources, but organically you're building these relationships and these friendships. So to answer your question, in those first 7 years, you know, I had a full-time corporate position. I was traveling too, girl, crazy. And I think about that, like before having my son. I mean, I was gone 3 weeks out of the month. And I'm like, I had a mortgage and I wasn't even sleeping in my own bed. You know?
I do.
So when I was full-time working for corporation, Heels and Handshakes was that side hustle. What kept it going is that we were still meeting in person, monthly meetings, and it was the momentum.
Yeah.
And people referring Heels and Handshakes. And I'll share this with you. I don't think a lot of people know this, but when we first started, you know, I had it in this private Facebook page, and you had to know somebody to get invited to the Facebook page. And I kind of think of this, I didn't realize it at the time, that's a marketing strategy in itself. So like, do you remember Clubhouse? I don't know if it's still.
Yeah, I have.
I mean, it was like really big when it first came out. They were very smart in their marketing because you had to get an invite to join Clubhouse.
I remember that now.
And so it was like, oh, who has an invite? And so I didn't realize, but I was doing that in 2013. But the truth of the matter is, your girl was busy traveling on the road.
Sure.
And so I didn't have time to do the prospecting. And I just trusted my community. And so if you're like, oh, hey, Amy, She's Got Baggage, she needs to join.
Sure.
You would add her into the Facebook group. And it would just grow and grow organically. And to answer your question, what kept me going is just getting those positive emails, texts, phone calls of like, I feel empowered from this group. I got my current job. I'm a bridesmaid in a wedding. Like that is my love language, knowing that I'm helping others.
Sure. And how many members are you up to now?
So it definitely fluxes because every month is, renewals and then expiration, but we have 300 members.
Wow.
And we are expanding to Texas soon. We expanded to Alabama. And so that's my goal, is to reach other markets and have in-person meetings. So now we actually have members all over the U.S., so not just Nashville.
Okay.
We have members in Florida, in Louisiana, and Arkansas, but our markets where we're meeting monthly in person right now are Tennessee and Alabama.
So are you driving to Alabama for these in-person meetings, or do you have someone leading out
So
there?
the goal is to have a person in each market. So I have a person in Alabama right now, and so she's leading that. And honestly, Alabama's not a far drive, so there's a couple months where I'll go out there, but that's not feasible for, in the long term for other markets.
Yeah. And is that your goal? So talk to us a little bit about growing a company, trying to standardize some things, whether it's just bookings or membership questions or value-based propositions, talking to all the members, getting them on board, getting them signed up, keeping them engaged, creating that process in of itself as an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's clunky because it's ever evolving. But then scaling that to new cities and new areas is also a big task. So talk to us a little bit about just standardizing the business and then scaling the business. What's been good, bad, and ugly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love processes and systems, and I time block. I will share that what I'm learning, and I'm glad that I opened Alabama before Texas, because I had this idea of like, okay, we're going to have our SOPs and everything standard. What I've learned, and I mean, I feel like it's common sense as I'm saying this out loud, but sometimes as business owners, you have to like go through it, you know, and they're like, okay, now I see, even if people will tell you things. But Alabama is a different market than Tennessee. And so actually we are, in real time, if anyone's listening to this, May 2023, we are now reevaluating doing our meetings as luncheons for Alabama, because a lot of our women are working moms. And so, when doing the feedback, they said it works better for their schedule to do a lunch and learn versus in Nashville, we meet from 4 to 6 and then we have quarterly educational luncheons. So we'll only do a luncheon once a quarter, and that's from 11 to 1. And so while I can sit here and say, yes, I'm going to have processes and standards and this is how it's going to be, I've learned you have to adapt to your market. And so that's something that we're doing right now with Alabama. We're going to be looking at doing luncheons to have a higher turnout with attendance. And, our women have more flexibility to leave during the workday, especially if there's an educational value to it.
And so as a member, obviously, I know, everyone listening knows how important relationships are. I mean, the world turns by relationships. And I do think being in the corporate America and in small business, you want to work with people people you trust, people who have your back, people who support you, and vice versa. And people whose business, their model you just believe in. Like Amy Amy with She's Got Baggage.
Yeah.
A, she's just a rock star of a human being.
Love her.
But B, like, even cooler that there was a problem about folks getting to Nashville early and not having a place to put their bags. And when I'm thinking about what she does, I can't even wrap my mind around how they find the people, get the bags, get them stored, bring them to the Airbnb. I can't even fathom that. But the creative side of meeting people and learning what goes on in their brain or how they solve problems, I love, and I think Heels and Handshakes probably provides that relationship base for sure. But in addition to the relationship and the networking in the community, if I heard you right, you have one quarterly educational series and then one monthly networking event. Is that basically what it is? Okay.
Yep. So we do monthly in-person networking events, and our networking events aren't just you show up and you feel like you got to find people. Like we have activations. We usually have a theme. So, last July we were here in Nashville. We were at Old Red, and we called it the Dog Days of Summer. Yeah. And we brought in a nonprofit, Soar Nashville, give them a shout out. And our members were able to, like puppy cuddling, but then also we had 2 members foster one of their dogs. So it was a, feel good element too. Sure. So we always try and do like activations at our meetings, but with the educational luncheons, that's a great way we bring in the top leader experts, because I'm always like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That's right. So like we're always wanting to learn and grow. So we bring in experts. And then I'll kind of talk about Amy with She's Got Baggage. So one thing that I'm proud of that we've created with Heels and Handshakes, we have something that we call heel to heel. So we track referrals and, recommending each other. And so over the past 3 years, we've done annually over $4 million in B2B revenue.
Wow. So
it's like you can join Heels and Handshakes for the community, the resources, and the education. But at the end of the day, we get paid too. That's right. Like we want to refer each other. Yeah. And so with She's Got Baggage, we'll connect her to our hotel members or people that are doing bachelorette parties and events. And so that's really the beautiful thing. It's like helping to expedite, like making those connections.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing. Lucia with Twisted Sugar, another shout out. She's always, raved to me about Heels and Handshakes and just about you as a person and how happy she has been becoming a member there. But the one thing I've learned like from her as a small business owner is there's been several times her and I are like looking at a project together, and she's just like, no girl, don't waste your time on that. Don't. And I look back at her and I'm like, oh, but I need it, right? Like I need to do this for the content. And she's like, one day,
ain't worth it.
one day you're gonna learn. And today I was listening to a podcast about like, I'm just not going to discount myself anymore. Like discount, meaning like discounts to clients or friends or people.
Look, you don't need to be the Walmart. Walmart's the lowest price. You don't need to be that.
And it's a hard lesson to learn though, I will say, as a small business and you're growing, you do need content. I remember when I first started, I literally, because I had just moved out of my home downtown, I was living with a friend and a baby and a boyfriend and a dog.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And I was renting hotel rooms out in downtown Nashville.
Wow. And that's expensive too, girl.
It was nuts. And just to decorate them.
For content to do
for like bridal suites. And like now we don't do hardly any hotels. It's mainly Airbnbs. And I probably should have just called a few friends. And I did call a few. I'm like, can I just come over and decorate your house for a photo shoot? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Right. But my point is like, there was so many like I have to do this to get the content, and there are some things that you should do, but you don't, I'm learning is if you keep giving and you keep discounting and you keep trying to help a sister out, you're going to be broke and it's going to be hard, and then you're not going to be happy because you're working so hard, and that's been one struggle for me as a small business is I want like a servant leadership. I am all about a servant leadership, and we'll go above and beyond for my clients, but then sometimes the weight of that is hard, not only for me, but for my team members, because being a servant leader is great, but when you're now using other people's time too, like our team members and other people on the weekends, like it just has to be paid for. You have to pay for that labor and that value. And that's something we're learning is like, you just have to stand your foot down and be like, this is what it costs. And either you book it or you don't, you know?
Well, and when you do that and you set those clear boundaries, then you're opening up space and energy for people that are going to pay for your services.
Sure.
And then I'll touch on, thank you for sharing that you were getting scrappy in the beginning and like getting hotel rooms and like, okay, I'm going to decorate. Well, I'm sure that was expensive, but you were still getting creative. Like, okay, I'm going to have this hotel room. I'm going to decorate it. And so something that we encourage, we always say collaboration over competition. We would encourage our members to work together. So if there is a new venue and they're doing an open house, I would connect them with you. So then you could decorate, you get the content, and that's mutually beneficial.
Sure.
Then we get a photographer on board, and that's mutually beneficial for her because she wants to be the preferred vendor at that new venue. And it's just this beautiful cycle of like how we can all help each other out. And, that is one thing that I'm really grateful for our membership. And I said this the other day, and it sounds really crude, but I'm like, if I were to get hit by a bus, which I hope I don't, but Heels and Handshakes would still go on because of our members, because they genuinely want to help each other out, and that they are the secret sauce. So it's like, I really wish, like for someone like you, if they're like, hey, I really need some more content, that's when you reach out to the community and like, hey, how can we help each other? And I feel like everybody would be putting a hand up like, oh, I have an idea, and just all helping each other out.
Because you get a bunch of women together, especially entrepreneurs, there's going to be some ideas, you know what I mean? And that's what I love. From Twisted Sugar to photography to Bash Pop Co. I don't know if you've worked with her at all, but I mean, we are all collaborating often. And a lot of it too goes back to in the balloon or the event business. If you're a 1 or 2 man shop and you're sick, like yesterday I was so sick I couldn't get out of bed. Thank goodness I didn't have any events setups. Yeah. But thankfully, yes, I have some team members who could go deploy, but for a while I didn't. And it was like, who do I call? So I early on knew I have to make friends with these folks because, or even oftentimes, sometimes I get opportunities that are too big for me or too big of a scale where I need a partner or I can't deliver that at all. And so I wanted to know, who the community was. Like I said, I always feel like we're better together.
Absolutely.
Connecting together, working together, all boats rise in high tide, right? And so we at Busy Raising Hell firmly believe in getting to know your peers and partners and helping out,
Absolutely.
Whether it's a hand or a total event, we are always asking, how can we help? What can we do? Because we do want to see others succeed. So one thing I've been seeing a lot of you is bouncing around town and all of these open houses, or I think I saw you guys line dancing a few weeks ago somewhere. So tell me about that. Is that part of as a membership, you come to their open houses, you come to their events, or is that just your friends that you've met and you're supporting them? Is that part of Heels and Handshakes? You guys are also out having a good time, which is good to see. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I'll talk about the line dancing. Okay. So we implemented member-only events probably 2 years ago. So our meetings sell out, which, knock on wood, is a good problem to have.
Right.
But we had 100 to 125 women at an event. And so I was listening to the membership, and they're like, I want to do something in a smaller, intimate setting where you can really just hang out with the members. So we did this about 2 years ago, and we would do axe throwing. We did puppy yoga instead of goat yoga because goats will poop on you.
Sure,
so we brought in puppies. Just doing really fun, innovative events that are members only. So that's what the line dancing event was. And we always support a Heels member. So shout out to Jenny Kane Productions. She is a line dancer teacher here in Nashville. And so she taught us for that. To answer your question about, going to open houses and going to events, I also tell people, Heels and Handshakes, think of us as an extension of your sales and marketing team. Mm-hmm. So when our members are having an open house or they're doing a pop-up, one of our members is Warehouse Collective. Uh-huh. So they are a upscale boutique. I always say, if you want to be bougie on a budget, shop Warehouse Collective. Okay. They're liquidated, so lots of designers, they'll have their pop-ups, and so I'll go to those events, and I'll do social media for them, right? Sure. So I'm think of us as an extension of your sales and marketing team. We'll work with your marketing team. So one of our members is the Holston House here in Nashville, and they were launching their new rooftop. And so while Chelsea's the Heels member, I worked with their marketing team, and they did a Takeover Tuesday on our Instagram account. Yeah. And so we're just always trying to help and promote our members. And I do enjoy going to the events, so I love going to the events as well.
Yeah. And speaking of team members, so do you have a team who manages your social media and helps with memberships? What does your team look like?
So that's actually a really good question. And I know we were talking behind the scenes about a conference that I just went to. And I'm officially going to outsource my social media.
And that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal. Because everyone's used to talking to you on there.
I know.
Right?
Well, so this is the thing. And this is the person that I've been talking with. I said, I don't want to lose touch of my community. Sure. And so the happy medium that we're coming to is that she'll put together content and schedule it. Okay. But if you're sliding into the DMs, you're still going to talk to me. Good. Because that's important to me. I don't want people thinking that they're talking to somebody else and then she fills me in. Like, if you're going to be talking to Heels and Handshakes, the DMs and commenting, that will all be me and my voice. But it's a big deal to outsource social media. But, you know, even listening to this conference, and it's something like you hear over and over again. Like, you have to delegate, and time is our biggest asset. And I spend a lot of time on social media, so that's not the best use of my time. Sure. Yeah. Do you do your own social media?
Well, so yes and no. I've gone back and forth. So I hired someone at one point, and she was just doing scheduled posts as well. Okay. But like, again, small business, all of our photos of our events just lived on a photo album shared on the iPhone. So I just gave her access. She would pull photos over. She would write, you know, she would write the caption and the hashtags. And actually, like, everything she was doing for a couple of months were receiving over 1,000 views at any time. So I was like, that's great compared to like the 300 before her.
Yeah, getting traction.
But what I learned really quickly was she just needed a little more direction. She was pulling photos that she wasn't a part of when they were, you know, when we took the photos, she didn't really know what they were about.
She didn't know who to like tag if like it's a collaboration.
Who to tag. And so what I realized quickly is she needed more of me to sit with her and guide her, and I just couldn't give her that. However, I did think that she had a great business strategy, and she had the data to back up what she was doing and how she did it and why she chose what she chose. I mean, it was great. I just needed to invest more time in it, and it would have been better, but I didn't have the time. So then we paused that contract for a little bit. Then it came back to me. Then we hired Jesse. Jesse does all of our TikToks, YouTubes. He's really the man behind the camera. He's here with us today.
Are we making you blush, Jesse? Give me your shout out.
So Jesse is really into it. He has his own podcast. He has his own brand he's trying to grow. So he has taken over a lot of it. But we kept running into the same thing about the DMs, or like if someone would read a message, but I still needed to read it, team members forgetting to unread it so that I could go back and read it. And then as we began to scale a little bit, Jesse got too busy to even look at the DMs, so to speak, because he was on YouTube, TikTok.
Yeah, there's so many.
I don't even know how to use TikTok. Every time I click on it, it has like 800 members, and it's like, what? I don't even know what it's telling me 800 thing. We don't even have 800 followers there yet. But TikTok, I'm still figuring out. So Jesse does all of our YouTube and all of our TikTok. Instagram, thankfully, which I've just learned this week, a lot of people don't know, has a scheduled content.
Yes. I love what you're saying, though. We're both on the same page about, like, work smarter, not harder. Like, sometimes you have to outsource, and it's hard to let go, but it's going to help.
But you have to. It will. And I think, again, it's folks, what we've learned, too, about, like, Reels or posts is that the Reels get a lot of great traction, but a lot of the clients, the customers, want the actual photo. It's like a post of the photo shows them what they're buying, or it gives them inspiration, so to speak. So the Reels are good for views and music and fun, but folks are often buying just from the posts. But we've just been using tools where we can schedule that. Really, that's kind of been me, and I sit down on like a Sunday and just pop it through for the week. And others do our stories, but there's so many of us in and out of our media, which makes it a little clunky because, like I said, but we're doing good. You know, for like you said today, like, oh, I wouldn't have known you guys are only in business for 2 years, but because we're doing it, we're firing on all cylinders, trying to keep it fresh, keep it valuable, keep it personable, because a lot of folks,
that's really impressive. Like, it really is. I'm like, wow, you know, I'll be a little vulnerable. I walked in, I'm like, oh, we're on video, you know, like, don't have my lashes. But I was like, that's amazing, you know, starting a podcast and already being, an early adopter, like, okay, we're going to have video. So we have this content. So you're doing it. You're doing a great job, girl.
Well, hey, we're learning. You know what I mean? What we're learning too is storage of information. We're like, what do we do next? Do we buy more, what are they called? External hard drives. Like, do we, as we are recording, we're taking up a lot of terabytes, gigabytes, right?
Yeah.
And so we're having to buy more of that. And even just storing our photos, we had to buy new terabytes this week for all of our photos. We hire a lot of local photographers to come in and shoot our content
nice.
When we're doing setups. And then so they're getting photos of us as a team doing things, and then they're getting photos of like the final product. And so again, they cut us really nice deals, which we are thankful for.
Yeah.
But we also try to give them business as often as we can. But
absolutely,
those are little things about growing a business: is where's everything living, where's everything stored, how can everyone access it, especially when you talk about scaling.
Yeah.
I have some folks in other cities who are talking to us about scaling, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm there yet. Let's have a chat though.
And look, I'll say this too. I think that's okay to, pause and say like, hey, I think this is a great opportunity. I'd love to scale, but I don't have everything I need at this point. And
Sure.
so I'll say that, at Heels and Handshakes, I had people reaching out for years about Alabama. And I remember thinking like, I don't know. And I didn't have the bandwidth because I was still working my corporate job. And so I think that's okay to say like, hey, if it's not good at that moment,
Sure.
don't adjust the goal, adjust the timeline.
Sure.
So like if you still want to scale, give yourself some, breathing room to get all your ducks in a row, or like
Right.
have time to have that research of like, okay, what does this look like? That was like something hard for me as an achiever in Enneagram 3. I'm like, I have to go and do. And it's like, no, sometimes it's okay just to pause and be like, don't adjust the goal, adjust the timeline. We'll still do this. It might just look differently at a different time.
Yeah. I appreciate your Enneagram 3. So
I know I keep talking about it. I'm like, I'm 3. I'm an achiever. Go.
I'm a 2, wing 1. And what's
okay.
funny is yesterday when I was talking to Ashley with BCT Balloons, I was telling her something about my personality, and she goes, "You're an Enneagram 3." I'm like, I don't know what a 3 is, but I'm a 2, wing 1, but I'm probably a 3 too, somewhere
Like
in
you probably
there.
got a 3 in there.
I tell people all the time I'm a recovering perfectionist. So you say recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
It all runs together. I think, it's just the nature of the business. But, Heels and Handshakes has just been so inspiring for me because
Thank you.
I've also been in the corporate space. But I know the power of people when they come together, but more importantly, women.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, women who are movers and shakers, and they have 2 businesses and a spouse, and then you throw kids or animals into the mix. I mean, the true superheroes in life, and can run circles around, most people. And so I am just so inspired by Heels and Handshakes. I am so glad you've shared with us about it, because I have signed up, but I haven't attended yet.
It's okay. We'll get you. Life's busy.
I'm coming. But what's next? Tell us, what's next for Heels and Handshakes, other than you scaling to new cities?
Yeah.
What can folks be looking forward to for the rest of the year?
For the rest of the year, if any of your listeners are here in Nashville, I'd love for you to come to one of our meetings. We meet the second Thursday of every month, with the exception of June, because we want to avoid CMAs. But yeah, I'd love for any of your listeners to come to one of our meetings the third Thursday of the month and come check us out. So
Perfect. And how can people find you guys?
Yes, so you can find us. Our website is www.heelsandhandshakes.com, and we are Heels and Handshakes on all the socials, so TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn.
Goodness, you
I
got
know
it
it's
all.
a lot. Haven't done YouTube yet.
YouTube's
I'm like,
next.
ugh.
I know. We were the same. We felt like YouTube and what are they called? Shorts.
Yeah.
Jesse comes in here and he's like, "Hey, we need to go on YouTube and do shorts." And I'm like, "What is that? What does that mean?" But we hashtagged. So we went to YouTube and hashtagged Nashville Bachelorette.
That's smart.
The biggest bulk of our business are bachelorette parties. Hashtag Nashville Bachelorette. There was zero uses on YouTube.
Wow, that's
Right?
opportunity right there.
That's what we said. So we're like, we're going to just start using it, And we've learned that a lot of our, so we do YouTubes on educational things as far as like Busy Raising Hell, but also walkthroughs of our final product, what those look like. And we're learning those don't get as many views as the educational things. So again, diversifying your business. We're trying to diversify too in different ways, but
Well, and especially since product based, Lemon8 is the new social platform. So it's almost like Pinterest. I'm trying to think what Pinterest and something else got married. That's how they were referring to it. But I would definitely look at Lemon8 as well.
I've never heard of it.
There's a new one. It's always something. It's a full-time job, all of the socials.
I tell you really can have a business doing anything these days.
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw another business launch that they just come to your wedding or your reception and they're only capturing small reels.
Yes, I saw that.
Content.
Yes,
and I'm like,
I saw
that is genius.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, if people are not out there making money, it's just because they're not trying hard enough, because you could make money doing almost anything that you enjoy these days.
But I'll kind of like plug this back in. You can make money doing anything, but you have to have the visibility and the awareness.
Sure.
So it's like, if you have this, you're solving a pain point, you're doing that.
Right.
Well, I'm sure you saw that because it was on Reels or TikTok, right?
That's right.
So it's like, you can create a business doing anything, but you need the visibility, you need the awareness, and you need the community. You mentioned this earlier, like, entrepreneurship is lonely. It shouldn't be.
Sure.
Like, one of my favorite quotes is from John C. Maxwell, and it says, if you're lonely at the top, you're a hiker, you're not a leader, because leaders take other people with them.
Got it.
And so when I hear people say like, oh, entrepreneurship is so lonely, I'm like, you don't have the right community. Like,
Sure.
I've got my people, and it's an emotional roller coaster, and Lucia and I have had this conversation, lots of other business owners, when the highs are highs, they're great, but when you're in that valley, like, you need to have your community to talk to just have that sounding board of like, you know what, yep, I've been there, it's been hard with hiring, and I had to fire someone, and this is what we did, or hey, we need more capital, or just all of the subjects that you talk about as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur. It is so crucial to have your community and have people in your corner, because they can help you. And I'm all about like, work smarter, not harder. So if someone is 5 steps ahead of me, I want them in my corner to teach me the shortcut.
That's right. That's right. Well, anything else you want to leave our guests with today? Anything we didn't talk about?
I think we kind of covered a lot of just, entrepreneurship's lonely, outsource.
Yes.
One other thing that we kind of talked, offline is, the women that I'm attracting, and that, even us, right? Like, we're busy, multiple jobs, kids. I'm in a season, and I know people are like, work-life balance. It's really work-life integration. There is no balance.
Yeah.
Because when I feel like I'm killing it in my career, I feel like I may not be as, present mom.
Absolutely.
So just to give yourself grace, and, I'm in the season that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no right now. And that's okay to say no. No is a full sentence.
That's right.
So that's the last thing I'll leave you guys with.
That's right. Hellraisers can say no on occasion. We usually don't, but we're learning that one the hard way. But everything you've shared today has been so enlightening, Shannen.
you.
It's so good to see that you've grown this community. You've stuck with it for 10 years. We cannot wait to join you for your 10-year celebration. Give us all the details, and we will support you any way we can.
Yes. So December, oh my gosh, is it December 13th or the 14th? Whatever that second Thursday. Oh, we've got a calendar right in front of us. I think it's the 13th.
14th.
Oh, it's the 14th?
14th.
Okay, so December 14th, we're going to be at Old Red for our 10-year anniversary. So mark your calendars.
We will be there.
Awesome.
All right, Shannen. Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for asking me to be a guest on your podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm honored. So thank you.
All righty.
Yo!